On traps. I'm not thinking of mouse traps or traps for animals or birds. Um, I'm thinking about mental, moral, social, economic sorts of traps, political traps. This is in relation to the observation originally, among others, by Adam Smith, that if you have peace, easy taxes, and a due administration of law, in other words, the right legal and social framework, then wealth will continue to grow. And if you have what I describe elsewhere in my talk about triangles, if you have a triangle of industrial and scientific and knowledge growth, all things being equal, you will get technological and economic growth. But we've seen in long periods of history that it doesn't happen. It happens for a while and then it tails off and stops, and you often get even recession and going backwards. Why is that? Well, a lot of my life and discussions with my friend Jerry Martin were about the kinds of social and political and economic traps, knowledge traps, religious traps. For example, the famous case of Islamic science and invention, which was so rich from about the 8th, the 12th, 13th centuries in Spain and elsewhere, and then more or less died away. And you find the same thing in almost every civilization. You find it in China, famously up till about the 15th century, the Song and then the Ming. You find huge developments in China, very great wealth and technological innovation, and then it levels off. And the explanation for that, for example, that my friend Mark Elvin has given is what he calls the high level equilibrium trap. You get to a high level and then you get to you can't go above it. It's an equilibrium trap. And he has explanations for that. And so Jerry and I looked at things like the fact that at a period of economic growth, which he was interested in as an industrialist, people are involved in making things, doing things with their hands, producing. And then as wealth grows, the money is no longer in that. The money is in financial services. So the best brains are creamed off and they don't go into making things and making wealth. They go into predating on other people. So they become bankers and they become financiers and they work in the stock exchange, which is non-productive, doesn't do anything. It just shuffles money around. I mean, it may help in investments, but basically it's predatory. And that's one of the traps. And Jerry used to represent it as the long fingernail trap. In Mandarins had a long fingernail, and they protected it with a silver device, which I have. And that was to show that they didn't get their hands dirty. They never made things, they never did things with their hands. And that Jerry thought was a trap. So religion, setting its face against any kinds of innovation or saying that people should not enjoy themselves or whatever. Political systems which are afraid of too much wealth and development in their people. War, obviously, can come along, famine and disease, the Malthusian traps, as they're called. So there are many kinds of traps, and they become apparent if you set them against a tendency towards economic and other kinds of growth, and then something halts it. So that's when you notice tendencies and you notice these different kinds of traps. Once you understand what the traps are, you can, if you want to do that, unblock them. It's like having a sat-nav which tells you there is a roadblock ahead and you can try and go around it or whatever. So it's a very useful thought experiment to think of what are the things that trap us and trap societies and trap civilizations, and how can we, to a certain extent, avoid them and lead a more prosperous, healthy, and happy life.